Mind stop is God. Mind working is man. Mind working fast is mad. Mind slowed down is must. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. We are reading Meher Baba calling. There may be a different photo. Meher Baba calling. You may be having a different calling. But this is the very old, very old book. So now we are reading chapter number 5.
Know my ways. If I am beyond the level of an ordinary human being and much beyond the level of saints and yogis, then I must be the highest of the high. In which case, to judge me with your human intellect and limited mind and to approach me with mundane desires would not only be the height of folly but sheer ignorance as well, because no amount of intellectual gymnastics could ever understand my ways or judge my infinite state. If I am the highest of the high, my will is law, my wish governs the law, and my love sustains the universe. Whatever your apparent calamities and transient sufferings, they are but the outcome of my love for the ultimate good. Therefore, to approach me for deliverance from your predicament, to expect me to satisfy your worldly desires, would be asking me to do the impossible, to undo what I have already ordained.
This is a part of the very long and powerful message of Meher Baba, highest of the high. In that message, I am repeating, and I know I am known for repeating, can't help it. Baba says that I am either the most ordinary person like you and the others, or I am the highest of the high. You cannot put me into any intermediary categories of sadhu, saint, walis, pir, awliyas, mahapurushas, mahatmas, yogis, etc., etc. So then he goes on to say that if I am an ordinary person, then what is the point in your coming to me and asking me for favors or whatever, because I am just an ordinary person. I cannot give that because I am just ordinary. And on the other hand, if I am the highest of the high, then I must know what your needs are, what to give, whom to give, when to give, where to give, how much to give. And if you ask me, then that tantamounts to my not knowing what to give, whom to give, where to give. So then again, what is the point in asking? So in short, what Baba is trying to convey is that do not ask anything from me, because I know what to give, whom to give, and all that. So that is the aspect of this particular chapter called Highest of the High. Now this is only a small synopsis from that message. Baba says,
It's a paragraph.
it's a paragraph rather, correct, it's a paragraph. If I am beyond the level of an ordinary human being and much beyond the level of saints and yogis, then I must be the highest of the high. In which case, to judge me with your human intellect and limited mind and to approach me with mundane desires would not only be the height of folly but sheer ignorance as well. In other words, first of all, Baba keeps saying, do not try to understand me. My depth is unfathomable. Just love me. Time and time again, Baba is harping on love, which is the only pathway, only gateway, only yantra, only way in which we can approach him, we can touch his universal heart, not through understanding. Baba says understanding has no meaning. Love has meaning. Obedience has more meaning. Holding my daman has the most meaning. In other words, understanding, we try to understand things with our intellect, it is of no value. So here Baba says, to judge me with your human intellect and limited mind, and to approach me with mundane desires would not only be the height of folly, but sheer ignorance as well. It is ignorance, it is stupidity to come to me for some mundane chota mota cheez that way. Because no amount of intellectual gymnastics could ever understand my ways or judge my infinite state. No amount of intellectual gymnastics, no amount of trying to understand the infinite with a finite mind, it is impossible. Baba says that mind wants to know that which is beyond mind. For mind to know that which is beyond mind, mind has to go. In other words, there should be complete annihilation of the mind, manonash as we say. Only then the heart will be able to feel that which is infinite. But the folly is, but the joke is, but the humor is that mind wants to retain itself and wants to know that which is infinite, and that is why it is impossible. Now, talking about mundane things, chotu-motu things as we say, I am reminded of one episode. I suppose it must be in Meherabad or it could be at any other place, when Baba was giving a sahwas. Baba was in a sahwas, giving a sahwas to all the at Meherabad, and in the group, in the gathering, there was one person who was spiritually advanced. That means he had some riddhi siddhi. He had some power to do chota mota chamatkar. So Baba introduced him, and Baba even told the public that he is my disciple and that he is on a spiritual plane and he can perform small miracles, but, this is important, but I do not want you, any of you, to approach him. I do not want you to go to him. Why? Because now that you all have come to me, I am responsible for you. I know exactly what to give, whom to give, and etc. So do not approach him for anything. That's what Baba said. And of course the meeting terminated and people went about in their own places. And one from amongst them approached that person for something. Of course he did not tell Baba, he did not tell anybody, and that was it. Now Baba being Baba, in the next session, because in the day there used to be two sessions, one in the morning, then there would be a long break for lunch and rest, and then there will be an evening session. So in that evening session, Baba, that is Baba's normal way of asking, how have you been, did you sleep well, did you eat well, and all that, all kinds of normal mundane questions. And then somehow he pointed out to that person who had gone and seen the other, the so-called spiritually advanced person, and asked, how have you been, did you rest well, what did you do? So he was very evasive. Yeah Baba, I rested, just like that, roaming around here and there, waiting for this session to start and all that. And Baba very shrewdly, because Baba used to say, "Main to ustado ka ustado," that, and really he is, I am the shrewdest of the shrewd. So very, very cleverly, I wouldn't say cunningly, but actually cunningly, Baba cornered him into a time frame when that person was with his person. Why? What were you doing at this time? And he knew that he was caught, and so he, in order to downplay the whole thing, he said, well Baba, I had gone to see him. Immediately Baba's face turned red, and very, very, very strongly, very seriously he said, what? But why did you go? I told you not to go. I told you that nobody should approach. Why did you disobey me? Why did you go? And that person, he thought he was very smart. So he said, Baba, you are, Sao Saudagar means you are a wholesaler. You are a wholesaler. you are there for big things, you know. I had something very small, very tiny to ask. So I thought, why should I disturb you? Why should I ask you? I can do it from here itself. I can get it from here itself, because it was such a minuscule, such a tiny thing. And then Baba said something which was very profound, which all of us must understand in great depth. Baba said, even that small thing that you wanted, even that he cannot give you unless I permit. So it is very essential to understand that Baba does not want us to roam around here, there, everywhere in search of these things. It doesn't mean that if you are sick you won't go to a doctor, or if you need something. It's not like that. From a spiritual standpoint, to sort of gain or get something which you may not get from Baba. So that is one episode that I remembered from reading this word, mundane desires. Okay, now continuing with the passage. If I am the highest of the high. Now what is to follow now is a very important sentence which we continuously harp on. If I am the highest of the high, my will is law. I repeat, my will is law. What is God's will? The law. What law? There are several laws. Physical laws, chemical laws, social laws, political laws, but above all of them, in the domain of duality, there is one law which we call the law of karma. So Baba says, my will is law, my wish governs the law, and my love sustains the universe. If we understand the first part, because that is applicable to us, that we are all governed and bound by the law of karma, which is nothing but Baba's will. Now we'll go beyond. Whatever your apparent calamities, there is no real calamity. There was some incident where something happened and somebody could not attend Baba's meeting, and when he was asked why he could not attend that particular meeting, he said, Baba, there was something serious had come up in our life, something serious. And Baba said, nothing can be more serious than Baba. In other words, to hold on to Baba, to obey Baba, to put Baba above all things, not to give him a second place, then that is the most serious thing to do. Last time or sometime before I said, he who gives God a second place gives him no place. So we need to understand that. So here Baba says, whatever your apparent, not real, calamities and transient sufferings, transient, impermanent, आज है कल नहीं है, transient suffering, they are but the outcome of my love for your ultimate good. This needs a little explanation. How can Baba say that I am loving you and still allow us to go through transient suffering and apparent suffering and transient apparent calamities and transient? How can Baba say that I love you and still Baba is allowing us to go through all these things? And on top of this, Baba is saying later on that it is all according to my, in other words, you are asking me to undo what I have already ordained. Why would Baba ordain for us something which is so terrible, suffering, pain, whatever you call it? There lies our maturity in understanding that when Baba says that too is because of my will, means that too is because of the law of karma, which means that if you face the fruits or the effect of that law of karma, you will be out of it, because now you have equated, balanced and got over your past. You have got over what you have already sown in the past. We have been repeating this over and over again, so let me complete this. And therefore, to approach me for deliverance from your predicament, to expect me to satisfy your worldly desires, would be asking me to do the impossible. Baba allows things to happen in the natural course. Why? Because that happening in the natural course is best for us. Why? Because in the happening of that happening and in our suffering, in that suffering, we are actually balancing out our past karmas, and therefore Baba would by and large we will not intervene or interfere in the operation of the law of karma, which is God's will, which is His will, and allow things to happen in the natural course, in the natural way, so that is His love, so that we come out of it. You got me? So that is how His love is interpreted by most people in a, I would say, in a wrong way, in an erroneous way. This is His love. His non-interference in our suffering is His love, because He wants us to get over the transactions. So here Baba says, would be asking me to do the impossible, to undo what I have already ordained. Why has He ordained this? Why is He taking upon Himself that I have ordained? Because we have sown the seeds, and that is why in Baba's wish, the third wish, there are 6. The third wish says, if you are happy, if you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. If you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. Why He puts Himself, why He is putting His head on the guillotine, chop, why? Because He says, at least you blame me instead of blaming somebody else, because if you blame somebody else, you are again winding the chavi of the karmas. Blame game. You are saying, poor me, because of this person played the role of a villain, that is why I am going through it. So again you are putting this adan pradan, the give and take of karma. So Baba comes in between and says, Baba, please blame me for whatever you are going through. So at least you will not wind fresh chavi, and you will unwind what you have already wound in the past. There ends this particular paragraph. If anybody has any query on this particular paragraph, please ask.
I have.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, I understand what Baba is saying. So, supposing if I have been stuck in this blame game till now, can I undo it now by
Of
stopping
course.
it?
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Of course. You have andas at your home, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Then you can undo it. See, basically every given moment is a fresh moment for us to realize whatever so-called apparently wrong we may be doing in the past, and rectify and make it so-called apparently good, and then move on. Ultimately your rectification also is in the domain of illusion, mind you. But it is a better illusion, because that way, from, as Baba says, from so-called bad to good to God, that is the pathway. From vice to virtue, from selfishness to selflessness to selfness. So any moment, you don't have to wait for a particular day or a particular muhurat. Any moment you realize, oh my God, do it, and start from that moment onwards.
And then, how are the past that I have been doing the blame games, but that will I be
Yes, of course, you can.
liable for that, right?
No, don't bother about liability and all that, because there are two things. One is, if you what is real repentance? Real repentance, yes, of course, Baba's prayer of repentance you do with the heart, but real repentance, in my understanding, is a radical transformation of your way of being, so that you do not repeat for which you have repented, and take it for sure that Baba has forgiven and move on. Just kick it out of your system and move on. That is real repentance. And another thing is that growth begins where blame ends. If you want to grow, you must stop blaming others for whatever situation you may be in. Okay? Go ahead. Anybody else has any questions? Fine. So shall we go ahead with the next chapter? Chapter number 6.
Become mine. I have come down from the highest to your level. Take me to be poor. If you are rich, take me to be rich. If you are illiterate, take me to be illiterate. If you are literate, take me to be literate. I have come down to your level, and if on that level you love me with all your heart in it, you will come to my real level of the highest, because I am in all. You can know me as one of you and one in you only when the veils of separateness are lifted, and this can be done if you love me honestly and wholeheartedly.
Alright. Now this is the chapter called chapter number 6 from Meher Baba calling, which says become mine. M-I-N-E. Yesterday we did whatever that day may be, I don't recollect. Erach's beautiful message which says be determined to be his. So in other words, once we have become his, then it is his botheration, his headache, his whatever you call it, to take us from where we are to where we should be, where we ought to be. We do not have to think about whether I am rich, poor, whether I am illiterate or dhobu, whether I am, whatever. And I always keep, it is like that OLX. I don't know what that means, the full form is, but whatever it is, as is, where is condition. He accepts us as we are and take us to where we should be only and only if we make sure to keep holding on to him. And the example that I had given earlier about the kite and the tail, about the engine and the wagons and all that, I don't want to repeat that again. So here Baba says, I have come down from the highest to your level. So take me to be yours, and naturally and automatically you become mine. See, we have absolutely no idea, no clue of what Baba's level is. I remember an instance once, I think this was in Mehrazad, where Baba was sitting and the Manli was sitting all around, and there was a small tiny ant going about on the floor. And Baba points to the ant and says, do you see that ant? That ant and you mean the Manli, are sitting on the same floor. But can you imagine the vastness of consciousness between you and the ant? They all nodded. I mean, what consciousness does this tiny small ant has, and what consciousness the Manli, the human being sitting over there. So they all said, yes, it's a huge. Baba says that more huge is the expanse or the valley or the difference between your consciousness and my consciousness, although we are sitting on the same floor. You getting me? So it is something much, much beyond us to even imagine what consciousness Baba has compared to what we are. So that is why Baba says that I have come down from the highest to your level. So take me to be yours, and naturally and automatically you become mine. Like yesterday, be determined to be his. The moment we have accepted wholeheartedly Baba to be mine and I belong to Baba, then that seals the pact, the contract and then you don't have to worry about anything, absolutely anything, except to try and live in such a manner that Baba is happy with us. There is that beautiful statement which says, think of things you will not hesitate to think in my presence. Speak words you will not hesitate to speak in my presence, and do acts you will not hesitate to act in my presence or do in my presence. Basically, all that it means zeroes down to one thing: make Baba as our constant companion. He is always and always with us, and in that understanding, in that firm belief, we conduct ourselves in our moment to moment living. If you are poor, take me to be poor. If you are rich, take me to be rich. If you are illiterate, take me to be illiterate. If you are literate, take me to be literate. We all know that Baba he is at home with everyone and everything. We have seen it in films that he would enter into any poor man's jhopdi and serve that person. We have several instances. We know of just that offhand, whatever episodes that come to my mind is, there was one person, I think this is a case of Hamirpur, where a person had helped in planning up Baba's visit over there, and that person fell ill last moment and could not come for Baba's darshan, and all the people were enjoying Baba's sahwas, and Baba all of a sudden got up from the sahwas and just kept walking, and people were wondering where Baba is going, and Baba would go as if the whole of the village is on his fingertips, as if he knows the whole area, like he has a GSP, telling in his GPS, telling in his ears, after 500 feet turn left, after this turn right, like that. So he went and stood before the jhopdi, the hut where that poor man was sitting, and Baba says that never ever think that I have forgotten, he is the one who is actually remembering us. And there are many such cases. There is a case where in a school, one young chap, he got a pamphlet of Baba visiting, and he was very much keen on having Baba's darshan, and the parents did not allow. Parents said no, the school is very important, and Baba went and met him in his classroom. So you can see that, and we have also known of cases, where there are people who are very literate. What was that person's name? Dr. Niranjan. Dr. Niranjan Singh. He was a principal in one of the schools or colleges in Delhi. He was a very intelligent person, and many questions he would keep on asking, and Baba would be answering. And again, one fine day when he was in Meherabad, he was there, and Baba was there, and I'm coming to that. And Baba was there, and Baba tells him, that Baba tells Francis that go and get that book which was recently published. That book was The Everything and the Nothing. And Baba shows Niranjan, Dr. Niranjan, that book, and says, do you know that you are actually the person responsible for this book? Because so many questions and answers that went in, we thought that it would be worth compiling that into a book, and that's how The Everything and the Nothing book came about. And then Baba says that, now are you satisfied? So he says, no Baba, like how some of us here are, never satisfied, we keep asking questions. So Baba, he said, no, I am not satisfied. I just cannot understand that you say that you have infinite consciousness. How can that infinity be bottled up or compacted in such a small body? Such a body, Baba's body, 5 feet, whatever, 6 inches, 5 inches, 4 inches, what, he could not understand, So Baba said, okay. Baba said, I go to the window and just tell me what do you see. So he says, Baba, I can see the road that is going by. What else can you see? Oh, beyond that, can you see something? Oh, I can see a plain, grassland where, a farm, whosoever that was, what is it called? Govard, a shepherd. A shepherd
Grazing.
is grazing a flock of sheep and goats, and what is there beyond? Oh, beyond I can see the mountain. What is there beyond? Beyond I can see this. Beyond, what is there beyond? Beyond I can see, the birds flying up in the sky, very much high in the sky. Beyond that, what can you see? I can see the whole vastness of the sky. Baba says, can you imagine? Your eye is so small. How can it accommodate such vastness of the sky and the goats and the sheep and the farmer and the mountain and the trucks going by and the car and the railway track? How can it accommodate how can all these be accommodated in such a small eye? So Dr. Niranjan got the answer that when Baba says that his infinity is bottled in his body, that is possible. So why I said this is because he is at each and every level of the poor, of the rich, of the literate, of the illiterate, of the literate. I have come down to your level. And if on that level you love me with all your heart in it, you will come to my real level of the highest, because I am in all. So in other words, what Baba says is, at whatever level you are, do not try to copy paste or copycat somebody else's level. Be at whatever level that you are, and honestly and sincerely love me at that level. If you love me at that level, then you will reach at my level, because I am at each and every level. My real level, you can know me as one of you and one in you only when the veils of separateness are lifted, and this can be done if you love me honestly and wholeheartedly. So this is just a Baba. What Baba is trying to tell is that Baba is available to each one of us at whatever level one may be, because Baba is simultaneously at all levels. And if we love him from the level at what we are, he will accept us at that level and then take us at his level. The only condition is that we have to be determined to be his fully, wholly, completely, wholeheartedly. Then the veil of separateness will be unveiled, will be removed, will be opened up, will be torn asunder, as we call it, light. And then that is when the separateness, the dui, will go, and the unity, the oneness will come by. So that is the end of the 6th chapter, called Become Mind. Anybody has anything to ask on this?
Cyrus, I have a question. This
Please.
is Salma.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, it's this way. Bothering my daughter since a very long time, it's regarding my parents. And yeah, so my mother, she's a real angel, I'll say an angel, but the thing is, she lost her son. So the thing is, I lost my brother, they lost their son at a very young age,
Okay.
And now also, my mom, she's old, but her suffering doesn't end. Just doesn't end. It just goes on. So my daughter tells me, Mom, how is it that, Nani, who has done good all her life, is suffering so much?
Mm-hmm.
And her has always been a very, easy go, like a very
Okay,
cool
got it.
person,
I got it.
And he has the best always in life,
Yeah.
Right. And then secondly, last year I lost my nephew, who was very small and a brother to my daughter.
Okay.
And he was a very religious man, very religious, going to temples, praying to God. She said, no, Mom, why did God do this to him? Why? I mean, such a religious man, but why had he to suffer? Does karma pay off this way?
Okay.
So I have no answers, for her. She's listening. She's there on this group, Shayoni. She's my daughter. She's listening.
Okay. Let me speak now. Basically, just because you are religious does not mean that you will not lose anybody who is close to you. Number one. Number two, just because somebody dies at a young age does not mean that the person has died prematurely, because to the best of our understanding from Baba's literature, we come with a certain set of samskaras, impressions, and when those samskaras get exhausted, expended, spent out, we just die. The basic, in my understanding, cause of this kind of suffering is, excuse my language, is that we are all foolishly attached to the form. And Baba has time and time again said that religious is one thing, but pure and real spirituality is a totally different ball game. And being spiritual means understanding that the form is not real, that the spirit behind the form is real, and that while we are having the form, we must discharge our duties and responsibilities, we must take care of the form, we must love the form with the absolute understanding that this is perishable, this is impermanent. The spirit behind the form is permanent. So in my understanding, I am sorry to say this, that all such suffering is because of our ignorance of the true nature of the self. The true nature of the self is bliss, is joy, is immortal. But because we have erroneously, falsely and ignorantly associated ourselves with the form, and therefore suffering is inevitable, and for which we cannot blame God, we can only blame our own ignorance of attachment. And therefore Baba time and time again emphasizes on detachment. He emphasizes it. We can't help it. We can't help it.
Why do good people?
No, there is no question of
Why
good.
is it that only good people suffer?
See, let me tell you one thing. See, if you are suffering for a spiritual cause, then it's a different matter. But here you are suffering because of ignorance, and for which you cannot hold God responsible. Whether you are good or gooder or goodest, I'm sorry for this language, for my English grammar, but that good or bad is not the point. The point is, if you are attached, you suffer. If you are ignorant, you suffer. Irrespective, let me tell you, irrespective of how good one may have led one's life. Because good and bad are very, very relative. They are very, very relative terms. What is good for one may not be so good for the other. But I take it that she must have led a very pious life. But simultaneously with leading the pious life, she did not have this knowledge which we are getting from Baba's literature, that attachment always causes suffering. That's a rule. That's a rule. That's a rule. You cannot break that rule. If I am attached to anything or anybody, and when one fine moment that anything or anybody is taken away from my life, I suffer. That's the rule. And having known the rule, we should now think otherwise. Yes, go ahead.
Barrister, can I just add
Please,
to this?
please,
Because
of
you
course.
had once given us an example
Please go
of
ahead.
good karma and bad karma, like the rice and wheat, in a sack.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
whatever
please
we
go
have
ahead.
done-
Please go ahead. Please go ahead and
No,
give
sir,
that.
you please say. I just thought
Okay.
of that example you've always
I'm
told
so
us,
happy. I'm so happy that people are remembering and reminding, because sometimes in the spur of the moment I may forget. Okay, the example that I had given that was long time back, is that you are seeing a man who is carrying gunny bags after gunny bags of, let us say, wheat, and he is pouring it into one big container, like Food Corporation of India, big, huge containers where tons and tons of such grains are stored. So you are seeing that one after the other, the wheat is going into that container. Now when the tap is open from down, what we see is that the rice is coming out. And you wonder, how is it that the wheat is going in but rice is coming out. The fact of the matter is that there was some rice left over in that container, which is first coming out, and then after the whole rice lot is over, then the wheat will come out. In the same way, there is a high probability that we may have done something wrong in the past, for which we have got no memory, because we don't know last life or so many lives before this. And although I am doing only good deeds in this life, a very pious life, in whatever way that pious is interpreted, I am getting bad responses in life. I am suffering. Why is that? The answer is, it is because of the past so-called wrong deeds, the rice is coming out. The same example. But yeah, Jyoti, thank you for reminding. That is one example which you can understand that it may be a repercussion of the past. But in this particular case, I can very clearly see the one word which is creating or causing suffering. If I may, two words. One is ignorant attachment. Attachment through ignorance. That is what is causing the suffering. This is my opinion. The moment we realize that that particular soul has gone back to his creator, whosoever you believe in, Lord Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, whatever, he has gone back to his creator. Once you know that he or she is at a better place, once you know that he or she is really joyous, enjoying, and really so much in bliss, enjoying the beauties of heaven, then obviously you will not suffer here. And still if you suffer, then it is your obstinate ignorance. You don't want to, you are so obstinate that you want to suffer, and that is why you are suffering. That's about it. And that applies to each one of us.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is, of course,
Uncle,
I always,
Jai
sorry,
Baba.
1 minute. This is what my so-called disclaimer has always been, that this is my understanding, my impression, my interpretation of Baba's words. Okay, Janice, go ahead.
Jai Baba Uncle, I also remember you mentioning at Fazil's place, book reading, that suffering is inevitable in life. But how we take it is up to us. With Baba's grace, when he gives us suffering, he gives us the strength to go through it.
Absolutely. What I said was, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Pain in the sense of physical pain, now supposing something I get hit or somebody boxes me, definitely the pain is there, but I can choose to interpret that in a different way, so that I have either no suffering or my suffering is greatly reduced because of my own choice of interpreting it in a positive way. That's what I said. Thank you, Janice. Anybody else? Nobody? Okay.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Yes,
Milind.
Milind. Yeah, go ahead.
I had 3 to 4 questions.
Oh my
I'll
God.
Just one by one. So first question was, as you said, so all this is illusion. I mean, we are in a world of illusion, that is Maya. So why is it so difficult for all of us to realize that this is just a temporary existence, or this is just a Maya? We are not a permanent residents here. Why is it that tough for us? Because we are trapped in this material body. So it is very much obvious for us to believe, or to I would say, to trust on what we see, what we sense, rather than waiting to
Yeah, I got your question, Milind. Yeah. Okay, to answer this first question is, because we have been over the ages, it's not that we are having the first human form now. We must have reincarnated several hundreds, thousands of times. And we are so accustomed to treating the dream as a real thing, to treating this body as a real thing, that it really requires a shaking for us to awaken. And perhaps what we are going through now, what we call as COVID-19, of course this is again my personal interpretation, that this could be well a starting point of Baba to really shake us and awaken us to understand that all this is just an illusion. If you ask me why is it that we are feeling, I would say I don't know why, because we are so accustomed, we are like automatons, we are so identified with the body that we don't want to take Baba's words that this is an illusion. And it is not that we cannot, because there are several millions and millions of people who have realized the truth by now, and they know that this is just an illusion, and in time to come we all will realize that as well. Okay, we will realize that.
Second question.
Okay, the next question was, as you said, Baba says to everyone, if you are rich, take me to riches. If you are poor, so it does not matter what situation you are in.
Correct.
So in that way, a criminal can also, don't take it otherwise. What am I trying to say is, people might just leverage, his blessings and
Got it.
him as a tool to for taking undue advantage of his blessings. Or they might just, do something which is not correct, and they would say, okay, fine, so just take Baba's name and all our bad karmas are, wiped off.
I got it. See, basically, I got your point. See, basically, now it is between Baba and that person whom we call criminal, or whom we call somebody who is not of proper character. We are not the judges to say why it is happening. That reminds me of an episode, and I think I have shared it in these forums, where one person, I wouldn't say criminal, but in our loose language we say Mahachalu, that he posed himself to be a lover of Baba, and he is asking Baba for some help, financial help, and Baba tells one of the Mandali members, I don't know, maybe Merji, maybe Adi Kaka, maybe Eraj, to give him a little sum of money, whatever that money is. And all these people they know him. They were people of the world, so they know that he is just pretending, and he is just extracting money, and he is using that money for a bad purpose. And Baba is so naive. Baba doesn't seem to understand that he is giving the person, wrong person, this money. And this happened once, this happened twice, this happened a couple of times, until once when Eraj could not take it any longer. So when Eraj could find the right occasion, because you just can't talk to Baba anything at any time, Eraj asks Baba that, Baba, do you know what type of a person this person is, the one to whom you are giving and doling out the money? And Baba looks at Eraj and says, do you know that I am God? And then he says one sentence which is a very beautiful sentence. He says, you only see his shadow and you judge him. I know his substance and I am helping him. And then Baba says that, do you know how much of an effort he has put in to be only this much bad? He is bad. He is doing bad actions. He is doing wrong things. I agree. But he has put in so much of effort to do only this much bad. Very little. Otherwise he would have been worse. So in other words, we go by what Baba has said. We do not sit on the judgmental seat and wonder what Baba would do if a criminal does this, or if a rapist does this, or if a terrorist does this. This is between Baba and those people. We are simply reading and interpreting Baba's words when Baba says that I am at all levels. And I take it that Baba is at all levels, and Baba will definitely, if at all somebody takes advantage of this message, personally I would be very happy, because then Baba would transform that person very soon. There are instances where there was one Daku, I forgot his name. There was one known criminal, dacoit, thief, one who would have his living through murdering others. I forgot the name now. He was doing that in Meherabad properties, doing that. And Baba got to know of it, and somehow he confronted Baba, and Baba extracted a promise from him that he should never do such a thing. Now that you have met me, you have done so many wrong things in your life, but I will forgive you. Now you stop doing this and transform your ways. He promised. And once after a long time he tried to do it, but when he was just about to do it, Baba's presence was felt right in front and he was shaken up, and then he said, "Oh Baba."
Rock is what he knew.
Okay.
So what
Would you like to say? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that Baba used his services as a watchman, as a head
And then he was
of the
police.
community, like a police, and he was like a main watchman of the entire property. So that same property which we consider as negative, Baba converted that into positive. And once when such a stealing happened, some chori happened, robbing happened in Meherabad property, Baba employed him to send the thief to find the thief. Story that he was sent, and
Satyamang.
Satyamang was the name, correct?
Thank you, Krishna Kumar.
Satyamang was the name.
Yes.
Satyamang was the name, correct. So he could do that. So what I'm trying to say is, answering your second question, let us not be judged. That is between Baba and those people. Okay? Right.
Third
Any
question.
more questions?
Yes, yeah. So the next question is, one of the paragraph that you just now narrated that says, Baba will not intervene in whatever the law of karma is.
Yes, generally
but
no.
at
No.
Yeah, but at the same time, if suppose there are certain karmas which we are not sure, as a result of which we might have to go through painful situations, and always the Almighty has power to intervene and wipe off those traces of karma, wherein he knows that his devotees are very much close to enlightenment, but because of these hindrances they might have to, just spend some more time for it. So
Okay.
why not? Why even if suppose if I'm a devoted person, so why not taking his help would lessen my suffering or lessen my
We never
pain.
said don't take his help. You must always pray to him. You must always ask him to help you to come off that particular habit or whatever habit pattern that you are having. You must always repeat Baba's prayers of repentance and the other prayer, what we call as the universal prayer. Yes, and there is always, it is his prerogative, it is Baba's discretion whether he wants to intervene or not to intervene in our karma and help that one particular soul to come over it. It is his prerogative. He will do it. I am not saying he would never do it. What I am saying is, by and large, he allows things to happen in a natural course. Right? Is that over, your question?
Yeah, the last question. I'm so sorry for
No,
the
it's
huge list
okay,
of questions.
okay.
So, yeah, so luckily I have read the Krishna's teaching. I also happen to read, the various stotras or recitals of Lord Shiva, Krishna, Vishnu, and each one of them individually says that he is the best God. So, for an example, if I am reciting for Shiva, it will always be mentioned that he is the one who he's the one and he's the ultimate.
Correct.
If I'm reading for Vishnu, it will also suggest that he's the one and he's the ultimate.
Correct.
The same goes for Krishna. And similarly, when I hear about Baba, it is also Baba also says, I'm the one who's beyond everything. I'm the one who's origin and all that.
Correct.
So it is very much same. So for a person who comes from who has already read so much, who has already been rather I would say poured with so much into it.
Yes.
How would I really understand the true nature of Baba first, and how, or rather, what makes Baba stand out from all these different deities? So that was my last question for today.
Okay. You can always ask another question if something pops up in your mind. Okay, first and foremost, you and all of us, many of us are ignorantly thinking that Krishna, Shiva, Vishnu, Baba are different entities. That's our ignorance. You understand? It's all one. These are all different labels that we give for example, I'm just giving an example, that I am Cyrus, right? Now Soumya, my wife, will label me as the husband. My son will label me as a father. My mother-in-law will label me as son outlaw, not son-in-law, as son outlaw, and my sister would label me as a brother, but basically I am just one. That's number one. And God is so uncompromisingly one that there is no other. It is our ignorance that we are taking these labels, these nomenclatures as separate entities. It's all one. And how, now the last thing is, how is it that Baba stands out differently or the topmost among all? That there are areas or names of God which are, as we say in our language, we say it's Nirgun Nirakar, attributeless and formless. And there are those which are Sagun Sakar, which means they have name and they have form. There are various names. Zoroaster, we call him Spintaman Zarathustra, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and now Meher Baba. Why Meher Baba stands out today, in today's day and time, that he is the same one. There is no difference, but he is the latest one. There is this story which Baba himself narrated, that there was a war time, and during war time, especially this happened in Britain, and the young children, the young boys, are always brought up on what is known as Quaker oats. Quaker oats is the stemmed, like a staple breakfast for each and every family. Quaker oats. So there is a war time, and during war time there is shortage of stuff, and so one mother who sees that the Quaker oat box is getting less and less, and there's very little is remaining, so she runs to her popular, favorite, known chemist store. Right, there's a noise coming in, somebody's mic is on. Anyway, so she runs to the shop, and she sees one box, one tin of Quaker oat lying on the shelf up there, and she's so desperate, she's so like really in a fit of anxiety. She immediately says, I want that tin of Quaker oat. And she keeps on telling the shopkeeper, please give me this, please give me this. She keeps on telling it, very exasperated, in the fear that somebody else would take that Quaker oat and she would be left with none, because there was only one sitting on the shelf. And the man at the counter, please madam, please calm down, please calm down, please calm down. No, give me. Then what the man does, he bends down and takes out another tin of Quaker oat, fresh tin of Quaker oat. And then Baba says that which mother would like to take that Quaker oat when a fresh stock of Quaker oat has just arrived. And then Baba ends